panel, former prosecutor Jeffrey Gold and criminal defense attorney Drew Findling. And it's interesting, Drew, because you hear the last soundbite from John Henry Brown. You can see him kind of building that case, right, saying my client doesn't really remember what happened. He remembers what happened before the shooting and what happened afterwards, but really nothing, Drew, during what happened.
Yeah, Trace, it looks like a twofold approach, and you can't really blame him for that. And that is, you got to hold you have to hold the government, in this case the military, their feet to the fire with regard to forensically proving the case. That's the modern age in which we live in. That being said, I think he laid the foundation for what every one of us know, whether we're former prosecutors or defense attorneys, and that is it's going to be an issue of mental health. And that is whether he was able to distinguish right or from wrong. It would seem consistent with that being somebody in the military that we're going to see post-traumatic stress disorder come into play. We're going to see evaluation after evaluation after evaluation in this case.
Jeffrey, what do you make of this? Because it looks to me like John Henry Brown's also trying to say, well, look, he didn't do it because there's no forensic evidence that says he didn't do it. But if he did it because he was mentally unstable. He's going to point to the head wounds and stuff. If you prosecute this case, do you have enough forensic evidence, in your estimation, to make this successful?
Well, first of all, I think the defense lawyer is doing the right thing. I think everything he said is on target for this stage of the case. We really don't know what the facts are. The facts have come out very sporadically. We know a little bit of what this defendant supposedly said right away. We know a little bit more, but we don't know all the facts. We know what the horrendous result was, and we know a little bit about the beginning.
What do you think? I mean, we talk about the possibility of a death penalty here, Drew. They haven't executed a soldier since 1961. Do you believe the death penalty is at play here?
Well, there's always the issue of what you call the residual innocence, and that in this case it would be a little bit different. Residual is when you think, well, they didn't really prove it. Here, you're going to be in the case in chief. You're going to be most likely, when all said and done, I would predict you're going to be talking about the mental health of this soldier in the complete global analysis of the mental health of all these soldiers. And what was his condition from being involved year after year and being subject to so much violence, both himself and that of his. Yeah.
Drew, you can't you can't say all soldiers. I just got to say this, Drew. You can't say all soldiers. That's an insult to the 10,000, 50,000 troops that have had 4 tours of duty. To say that that's because of any type of.
Yeah, when I say that, hold on. When I say that, I mean when you're next to the gentleman next to you, or to your right or to your left, that's injured, and the toll it takes on you. So it's not an insult to those soldiers. When you think about those soldiers and what they go through, and have they really received the mental health treatment? I mean, we're reading that on the front page of the papers all the time and on the major news stations all the time. So it really is a global analysis.
We are going to hear a lot more about this case. Drew Findling, Jeffrey Gold. It's a great debate. Thank you both.
You cannot defend yourself against a pack of Skittles and iced tea. Don't talk to us like we stupid. Don't talk to us like we ignorant. We love our children like you love yours. Lock them up.
Of course, the police chief of Sanford stepped aside temporarily yesterday. The city manager putting 2 other cops now in charge of the department for now. And this afternoon, the city manager will be meeting with that state attorney, the now special prosecutor on this case.
Yep, still at the very beginning of this case. Phil Keating live for us in South Florida. Phil, thank you. Let's take this now to our legal panel, former prosecutor Jeffrey Gold and Drew Findling. He's a criminal defense attorney. And Jeffrey and Drew both, I want to play this sound for you. This is from George Zimmerman calling the police dispatch on the night the shooting happened. I want to play this for you and then ask you a question concerning the stand your ground law. Play the sound.
We've had some break-ins in my neighborhood, and there's a real suspicious guy. This guy looks like he's up to no good, or he's on drugs or something.
Are you following him?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need you to do that.
And the last thing he said in that call, Jeffrey, was that he's running. And now a lot of people have said the stand your ground law in Florida doesn't apply because he was running after him, that Zimmerman was pursuing this kid. But the Sanford police said that's not the case. They're saying that, in fact, George Zimmerman, when he lost sight of Trayvon Martin, that he gave up the chase, was walking back to his truck, and Zimmerman claims that's when he was attacked by Trayvon Martin. What do you make of that? Does the stand your ground law apply then?
No, it doesn't. I tell you what, Zimmerman sounds like he's full of baloney. You know, this case is where the objective evidence of a 911 tape, it reminds you of Rodney King. Had Rodney King not had a videotape in there, nobody would be up in arms. Because this objective evidence has come out, which is going to dispute everything that Zimmerman said, we're all going to know that it's a crock of baloney.
Yeah, but Drew, you look at this thing, and Zimmerman had a bloody nose. He had blood on the back of his head. There were 7 neighbors who actually called 911 during this confrontation. None of them actually saw this. So how does that bode if you're the prosecutor in court or trying to defend this in court?
Well, let's set aside the emotional issues, because the emotional issues are clearly critical, and anybody would be upset by what took place there. But let's look at it from a criminal justice standpoint. The stand your ground law has nothing to do with casting away the forensic developments that have taken place in this country. I personally have been involved with the Justice Department in putting together a book that dictates that law enforcement preserve the integrity of every crime scene. And you must remember that a crime scene also includes a scene where there's an allegation of self-defense, because a pathologist will always call self-defense homicide, leaving it for the courts to determine whether it's self-defense or murder. In this case, there was no preservation of the crime scene at all, and that, no pun intended, was completely criminal by law enforcement.
But you have a key witness on this, because Trayvon Martin was on the phone, Jeffrey, with a 16-year-old girl who says that while this was going on, he kept saying, look, he kept saying, I'm being chased by this guy, and the phone finally went dead right before the gunshot rang out. That is a key witness in this.
Absolutely. The stand and defend is being used as an excuse here for murder. It's ridiculous, and it's criminal.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you from the outside looking in, having been involved in these cases, it is what it is. It's clearly racist. We all know it's racist, okay? There's absolutely no doubt whatsoever that if this young man had been white, this incident was never have taken place. There was nothing suggested. No investigation revealed he did anything consistent with being suspicious. And for the case to not be investigated, it was not investigated for one reason and one reason only, and that's because the decedent was African American. That's the only reason. It can't be explained away.
This is where we agree. This is about race. It's not about the stand and defend law. That is just a sham. That's not what this is about. That's just being used as an excuse.
Jeffrey Gold, Drew Findling. Gentlemen, thank you both.